Welcome back after that really quick break. I do hope you've taken some time off to also connect with your peer members and take a look at all the other features that we had to offer in this particular virtual platform, albeit real insights. With that, let's quickly dive into our next discussion, wherein we're talking about driving innovation as well as embracing change in a time of economic woes, COVID-19 and future uncertainty, because I do believe words like pivot, or for that matter, unprecedented or resilience, all of these started surfacing thanks to the pandemic. We've learned a lot, we've embraced a lot, but most importantly, where from here? That's a big question. So let's try to understand that from our speakers joining us in. I'm going to quickly take a minute or two to introduce our speakers. Spearheading this panel discussion for all of us, we have Dharmaraj Ramakrishnan, Principal Advisor IT, WhatsLoan. In fact, he's an astute IT professional with an extensive experience of over 2 decades in the BFSI domain, and he would be spearheading this fabulous discussion for us all. As per the panelists, let me also introduce them for you all. We have Mr. Rohit Dhar, President of Product, Data, Design, Technology and Content of UpGrad Education Private Limited. In fact, he leads the entire product, data science, analytics and design teams, and comes with more than 15 years of experience in managing products for companies such as OLX, Flipkart, eBay and PayPal. We also have with us Ms. Sripriya R, who's a Vice President Technology, National Commodity Clearing Limited, and she brings with her a wealth of experience in the space of spearheading the teams, especially when it comes to innovation and technology. So it'll be wonderful to have Sripriya sharing her insights with all of us. We'll also be having the presence of Ms. Pooja Chatrath, CIO with Cryoviva Biotech Private Limited, who's a visionary and a strategic technology leader with more than 20 years of repeated success leading enterprises, IT operations, developing architecture and optimizing data analysis. Amongst our panelists, we also have with us Mr. Suneel Wattal, Joint CIO, Department of IT, Haryana Government, an experienced advisory consultant with a demonstrated history of working in the information technology and services industry. It's truly a delight to have his presence as well amongst all our panelists. And that also leaves me with our next panelist, Mr. Jagdish Narayanan, CIO, Reliance Jio Payments Bank and Financial Services, who comes with an extensive experience of more than 2 decades in the banking industry. We may also have the presence of our panelist, Ms. Viloo Italia Williams, CIO and Head Digital Transformation, Sir H.N. Reliance Foundation Hospital, who comes with more than 29 years of significant techno-functional experience, who will also be joining in a short while. But without any further delay, let this amazing and innovative session begin right here, right now. Stay with us in a couple of seconds. Our panelists will be on the main screen for all of you.
Hello, good evening, everyone. Thanks for joining us for this wonderful session. So I'm moderating this session as a moderator, and our team is quite fabulous. And we have seen since last 18 months, we have seen a sea of a massive change in the whole economic conditions and all the way things have changed, and the people have adopted new normals and many of the changes we have experienced because of the way the pandemic has struck us. So here I would be discussing with my the panelists, primarily on focusing on the digital journey, what they had and how they have been facing the challenges, what they encountered during this journey, and the new normal they adopted as part of this journey. Without any further delay, let's move on to the session. So starting the question with Jagdish Narayanan, who's a veteran in banking. As a CIO, he played a wonderful role in many banks and organizations. I will start the question with Jagdish. Jagdish, I just wanted to understand from you, what was your experience when the COVID struck and the digital journey started as a payment bank? It's different from mainstream banks. So how was your experience, and what did you do to ensure that the journey is completely seamless for the customer and experience internally as a CI?
Thank you, Dharmaraj, very much, and thanks everyone to have me on this panel. Really delighted to be on this panel. Thank you very much. So, like you rightly said, we are a new bank. We've been, trying to do everything completely digitally, anyways. But notwithstanding that, it's funny how even in such a scenario, when we had anyways planned to be a completely digital branchless setup, we still had, we were still caught fairly unawares, I would think, that when the pandemic struck so suddenly and in a manner that it did. Yes, we had to very quickly, it put all our systems to very stringent tests on how the BCPs work, how does remote working happen, and especially being in the banking and financial sector, which is one of the most heavily regulated sectors, it is very important that the customer touch is continued to be maintained. And at the same time, we ensure that the customer has the confidence at all times that his money is safe. He can continue transacting as he would otherwise have been doing without any disruption or fear or any kind of discomfort of any kind. So we had to do an extensive round of customer education on a constant basis to reach out to customers. And then, of course, also, try and support them through any other trouble that they might be going through as a result of the pandemic, so that that helps them to to be comfortable, to be able to transact as much as they would like to do, because it just completely pushed digital transactions for a while as the only option all of a sudden. So the customer education was of paramount importance, because while customers were transacting digitally, and there was a large number of customers who were transacting digitally, there were an equal number of customers that were sort of reluctant before the pandemic, or were sort of hesitant to move into a completely digital mode of transacting all throughout. They would do the odd digital transactions here and there, but they would still, given a choice, go to the bank and do their transactions, through physical paper means and those kinds of things. Now, for all of those customers, to give them the comfort and the knowledge and the tools to be comfortable to completely move into a digital transacting framework, and then make them comfortable that they're as good as they were earlier, if not better, if anything more convenient, was a very tall order which we had to undertake. And luckily, it has come through very well. It has shown, everybody knows how the UPI numbers have stacked up in the last year and a half, and literally gone through the roof. All kinds of digital payments have completely taken over the entire landscape. And I think we are headed towards good times from a digital perspective. It, of course, put a huge ask on our systems from a scalability point of view, the ability to handle a much, much higher level of digital volumes than was originally envisaged, as point one. Two, the security levels, because while it's all good on the one side, if digital transactions keep on increasing exponentially, the not so good side of that is also that, unfortunately, security hassles and frauds also unfortunately increase at the same levels. And so that's the protection that we need to ensure that the customer gets at all times, so that there is no danger of transactions going wrong. So this was the kind of challenges that we had to deal with, and we had to put a lot of processes in place, which took us a while, but now I think we're fairly stable on that front.
Interesting perspective. Thanks, Jagdish. I'll just move on to Suneel. Suneel, now we will straight away go into the citizen experience as a CIO to a government. What was your experience, Suneel, when it comes to this challenges, what you faced, and the chaotic world we experienced since last 18 months, the way we lived and the way we adopted the changes? What was your learning, and how you would like to give your perspective and experience what you had? If you can give some insights, it would be really nice. So over to you, Suneel.
Okay, thank you, Dharmaraj, and thanks a lot for the team to have me here. So, as you rightly pointed out, it was an absolute chaos when we started. I still remember the month of March and April last year when it all started, and it was an absolute chaos. There was a lockdown, and we had people not in the office. And incidentally, in a government machinery, the administration was not used to remote working. The concept of remote working in government was almost non-existent. We didn't even have the basic infrastructure. For example, my staff, all of them didn't even have laptops, didn't even have devices. So we were lacking in basic devices, we were lacking in basic connectivity tools. So it's like very, very primitive situation. But then we sort of took it heads on. I think with the support, there was a lot of support from the stakeholders. And what we did is the main part was to maintain continuity in services and citizen-centric services. The demand for citizen-centric services grew exponentially during this chaotic period, and people were in a chaos. So they were expecting wonders. So and time was the essence. We had to ramp up very fast. We had to create these facilities very fast. So it was twofold. On the one hand, we were developing applications, we were developing things, we were developing mobile apps. And on the other hand, we were also facing logistic challenges. So logistic challenges going hand on hand with IT challenges was very, very challenging and grueling task for all of us. But when I look back and when I see the situation now, I think we've come a long way. We took the challenge head on. We ramped up very fast. Personally, I wouldn't hesitate to say that we did in 3 months' time what in a normal situation we would have taken 3 years to do. So people were cooperative. People put in their best efforts. One of the best things was that most of what has happened is most of the citizen services were moved online. We did a major, though incidentally our state was already providing a lot of online citizen-centric services, but then the volumes went high. The volumes went tremendously high. And the expectation was that people wanted their services fast. So we also had another challenge was that all the issues pertaining to both the social issues as well as the economic problems issues that were created, applications, various processes. So it included a lot of process redesign. A lot of processes were reshaped. For example, I mean, I can just quote an off-the-cuff example, something like providing extra geriatric care for senior citizens who live alone. This was not existing earlier. This is a requirement which came up. So a lot of requirements like this came up during the pandemic, and we had to make either applications or mobile apps or provide support, all IT support for delivering of these. And the best part was because we knew that the human touch points have to be reduced, have to be minimized, almost with 0 touch points, most of these processes were digitized. So once you digitize a process, a lot of re-engineering is needed, a lot of support is needed. But I think it was a challenging time, a good learning. There have been a lot of learnings, and incidentally, we went through wave 1. The learnings in wave 1 helped us in quickly resolving issues during wave 2. And let's keep our fingers crossed. Let's hope we don't have such problems in future. But then I think we're much, much better equipped to tackle any problems if we face any exigency in future. So over to you, Dharmaraj.
Thank you for your wonderful insights, Suneel. It was really great to hear the experience you had personally and the way you handled the situation. So let's move on to Rohit. Rohit, you've been in a different world. You make others learn. So what's your view, and how you experienced this journey of 18 months which has gone by, and tremendous tough times, and learning is being the core of our life focus. What is your experience, and how you adopted and created solutions for the people who want to learn, especially corporates and students, and they wanted to upgrade themselves? So how was your experience? If you can give some insights and experience and the way forward, that would be really interesting insights.
Thanks, Dharmaraj. Thanks for bringing us in and putting all of us together, and thanks for inviting me. I think Jagdish and everyone has also called out a lot of important critical challenges when pandemic hit us. If you think of, and I'm going to just take a 30,000 feet level and then I'll go specific into depth. So if you zoom out and look at the organizations, there I bucket them mostly into 3 buckets. Bucket 1, where we say, hey, we don't need technology. It's okay to run the operations as is. Yeah, and they don't respect, they don't like, they don't want to be near technology, period. That's how it is. Bucket 2, I like technology, but I don't understand technology. That is bucket 2. I don't know how to get there. I have some Zoom account which we never use. I have some Gmail account which we rarely check, but that's what we have. And bucket 3, we don't understand anything beyond technology. We only understand technology, and technology is the way to go, and that's how we operate. So this is the 3 types of organizations that we have. Fortunately or unfortunately, upGrad falls in the 3rd bucket mostly. Some functions fall in the 2nd bucket, but mostly upGrad falls in the 3rd bucket. So when pandemic hit, it was just a switch on and off in our head. But of course, there were functions which were in the 2nd bucket, which knew that they had to leverage Zoom, they had to leverage this, but they could actually leverage physical interactions much more. They had a little bit of tough time to go through. But that was a tough time, and it's a little bit, I mean, few months of tough time. But fortunately, we were not in the bucket 1 organization at all. I think Jagdish seems like you were in the bucket 1 organization, where I wouldn't say you probably have technology, but you're like, you know what, I'm going to stay away as long as things are happening. Why to even worry about technology? I think that's where we were. So for us, we were there. Pandemic hit us. We understood that there are problems. We understood there were genuine problems of even interaction, this interaction, right? That if you are in a room, it's much cleaner, much easier, much faster, from an execution standpoint, things slowed down because every conversation meant a meeting invite. Every conversation meant that we have to ensure that everyone is available. Else it's just over the counter or over the desk conversation. So internal operations took a hit, but external consumer coming and asking us did not take any hit whatsoever. Instead, it only went up because of that pent up demand of it only going up because their physical schools and colleges and institutions are not open. Our demand is only increasing, and hence the volume is increasing. Hence, a lot of other things like security challenges and other things are also coming in. So we as an organization had to spend a lot of time building our platform out in a way which is ready for the next level of 10x growth. We had to ensure that we have predictability in terms of what kind of volumes are coming in, what kind of volume. That's a sophistication that we had to hit, we had to bring into play. So these were important elements that you have to fix. Second, we also have to understand now that the traffic is coming from multiple sources, what kind of traffic is coming from where, right? Google is sending what kind of traffic, Facebook is sending what kind of traffic, other affiliates are sending what kind of traffic, and identifying if this is a new user, existing user, repeat user, all of this. So we went into 2nd level, 3rd level, 4th level details and started getting into so that we can optimize. And that is where I think, which we could have done in some point in later, suddenly all of this came in right now to solve. And we had to ensure that we just frantically ran around to ensure that all of these parallel projects have been executed, and then we execute them at a grid scale speed, because the slower we are, the more we lose. And that's when we had to, the midnight oil, the weekends, it was just a grueling 18 months for us to execute, and we are still continuing to execute. During the same time, we expanded internationally. We have expanded in EMEA, we've expanded in APAC, and we've also expanded in the Americas. So all of those 3 regions, explicit regions, have been built out ground up with the same website and apps. So all of this is a lot of work which came in at the same time, because that was already pre-planned pre-COVID. So we couldn't say, hey, now COVID has come in, so sorry, we can't do all of this. So that plus the COVID traffic and the unrealistic operational challenges all came together, and we had to do a lot of reorganizing, restructuring, putting models in place where we would do 2 days in office when it was completely off. We couldn't come into office at all. It was like constant calls. But now that we can come into office, I'm coming at least alternate days in the office to ensure things happen. Again, a lot of things that we had to specifically work to ensure that there is sanity while we are driving to growth.
Wonderful, wonderful insights, Rohit. Learning is an ongoing journey. As long as we live, we learn.
Absolutely.
So you are playing a vital role and a great contribution to the economy and also to the society at large. Thank you very much for the wonderful insights. So I'll move on to Viloo, and she is from healthcare sector, and that was the core sector which was center of attraction as far as the pandemic is concerned. Many people were quite disturbed whether I get oxygen or not, whether I get a pulsometer, even those kind of things were happening. So Viloo, can you take us through what's your experience, your journey, and your insights as far as healthcare professional? And how did you handle the situation? What are the digital transformation you enabled as part of this encounter? Over to you.
So hi everybody, and thanks again for calling me on this show. The thing is that, see, as a healthcare organization or as a hospital in particular, we were always working, just like Rohit said, we are in the third bucket. We are a completely digitized hospital. So, getting into that digital mode during a pandemic was like, extremely normal for us because we were already in that space. And more than anything else, the pandemic taught many lessons to people connecting with the hospital who were all the time not on a digital platform. But yes, it brought up a lot of openings for us when we had to connect, patients had to connect to our doctors had to talk. And as you know, in a hospital, though we are completely digitized, there'll be a lot of people who want to touch, feel, talk personally, come and meet personally and so on. And suddenly working remotely so hospital staff could not work remotely, obviously. The hospital was open throughout the pandemic, and we never had anything called as work from home options. But yes, it made a lot of change. There were people who were afraid to come to the hospital and at the same time needed treatment. It is something that people do not wish to have, but they are forced to have at times. So yes, the interaction with the same people who normally come to the hospital was very different for them as well as for us. We had to, though being digital does not mean that, people already had everything at their fingertips. There were a lot of changes. There were a lot of weekends, and as Rohit also said, we were continuously working to make sure that facilities were available for patients to continue interacting with the hospital. Anything that we would have normally done in, say, 6 months to a year, we had to do it in days as in less than a month. We had to put up COVID centers, we had to put up testing centers, we had to put up better doctors' consultations remotely, video consultations, bring in telemedicine. That was another thing that we could easily, open up people's mind to using something which they had kept at a distance for a long time. So that also was one of the key factors of this pandemic, where people understood the positivity of how to work remotely with doctors, how to take treatments, how to discuss their problems, and so on. Then again, as a healthcare organization, we've continuously been working. So it's not that pandemic has brought too much of a change, but yes, we did have a lot to bring to the digital front, wherein we built systems, we built options where digital interaction was at the fore.
Okay, Thank you. Thank you very much for the insights. So in reality, the invisible virus made us innovate. It's an
Yes.
interesting journey for all of us, especially healthcare sector, which was saviors for many of us, especially the families and the society at large. Thank you very much for your wonderful insights, and let's move on to another healthcare professional. You know, Professional from healthcare sector. Pooja, I just wanted to understand your area of operations is quite challenging, especially even before COVID. Uh, your life was quite tough as far as the turnaround time and patients' inputs and analysis are concerned. How do you manage, especially during COVID and even post-vaccination, predominantly on the urban centers? So, how was your experience? What are the specific changes you observed industry at large in your segment? So how was it? How was your experience, and what did you do specifically to contribute the efficiency, effectiveness, and responsiveness of the patients and the hospitals, your customers, so on and so forth? So give us some insights to it, and give us some lessons you learned, so which can be of great help for the audience and all of us. Over to you, Pooja.
Yeah, hi, good evening, everyone. So, yes, as Dharma pointed out correctly, that my job as an CIO here has been challenging past 4-5 years, I would say, when we opted for our digital journey. Because Cryoviva is a stem cell banking organization. So we store stem cells, and it's a very niche market, if I say, in India. So, and wherein if I talk about IT products also, so we don't have a lot of vendors who have solutions ready-made available for us. So past 4-5 years, it's been very challenging to actually design all the solutions which suit this organization. And somehow, but I would say before COVID, the best part was, yes, we were automated up to 80%. So the challenges which we faced related to automation, which were prior to COVID, that helped us during that chaos, which was created immediately for all the organizations. So, but still being 80% on the automation side, and still small processes which are still pipeline for the next 2020 and 2021 being the roadmap for us. So getting all that things done during the first phase of COVID, and how to manage, because lab is one thing which has to be online. So we can't manage offline labs. So lab people had to come, but still what all we can do offline remotely. So it was the challenging thing for us, being a very small IT team. We had to provide the access. We have to take care of the security controls as well, because somewhere we were able to send the laptops. Some were the locations wherein they were accessing through their own systems. So taking care of the security systems as well was very important for us, being on a hybrid environment, because in Cryoviva, we have some applications which are hosted in-house, some which were already on cloud. So we had to maintain the entire security layer throughout these things. And the biggest challenge which we have been facing past 2 to 3 years was with our sales team, which was like, we have to make, the sales team has to make a home presentation when they present a solution to the customer. Customer for us is an expected mother, basically expected parents. So they have to explain them that what is stem cell banking, how it can help you. So what happens is, as everybody mentioned, human touch is very important. And sales teams were never convinced that we can move to the digital platform for these presentations. Neither the sales, neither the CRM. But this was actually the time which helped us, because they had no other option. They had to present it through the video consultations only. So we actually, the dream which was 2 years past, which was now done in, I would say, in a month's time, we were moved directly from online presentation, physical presentations, to online digital presentations. So this was one big achievement which was a big transformation for the organization. Again, another challenge is, if I say, sample tracking was very difficult because logistics was becoming problem. First wave, it was total haywire. We were having, and we have a compliance issue that if the sample doesn't reach within 72 hours to our lab in Gurgaon, so the sample is wasted. And this sample is just collected at the time when the child is born. So you can't collect the sample later on. So that's a very big limitation. So getting that, tracking that entire process, that the sample doesn't goes on a DOS, and that was again a big automation that we had to manage. We had a plan that we'll get a Flebo app for that as well as a customer app, but time being such a big problem for us, we just managed with small programs at that time. Parallelly, we started with our apps also, so that we can interact with the customer and we can provide them with the direct informations. And one thing which I would say, which I majorly faced was the silos which started coming from the department heads. Every department head wanted that their task should be done on priority and their application should be deployed, seeing beside that how it would affect other departments and how it would affect the entire database, the organization structure basically. So convincing them and managing that part, that was also one of the things which was difficult maintaining during this time when your team is actually working on the IT projects and you have to handle all the stakeholders. That was again one thing. And managing your employees also, I would say that was also one thing which was very stressful, because when you are at distance, physical distance, it's difficult for people who are sitting virtually, and what are they going through. You can't micromanage them. If you try to micromanage the things, they are again in a stressful environment. So these were some of the things I would say which were really difficult to manage. But yes, from technology point, working for past 3-4 years on automation actually helped us at this time. And if I talk about how what is the learning for us? Yes, learning is we should surely have a roadmap, so that as we had in our organization, so it helped us. And sometimes it's like it becomes difficult to convince your stakeholders, but the situations become like this, like we had to become a digital sales team, which was not possible, but the situations take us through that, and that helped us. So the people who are adamant, they also changed with time. And the biggest thing is, yes, you have to work strongly on security, which is not only the IT point. What I learned was that it is entire organization's responsibility, because educating them during this time was very important for us.
Wonderful. Great insights. Thanks, Pooja. So the change was inevitable, and the toughest of the toughest guy also underwent the change. That's a great learning. Yeah. Thank you so much. And let's move on and look at from a regulated entity where how this whole process happens and the technology plays, what kind of a role, what are the challenges they face. To give a little bit more insights into that space, we have Sripriya. Sripriya, if you can give us some of your learnings and experience in the pandemic journey, and how you handled especially the turnaround time, which is critical for clearing processes, and also the regulated entity where the data is one of the key element, and manual process moving from manual to digital. So you would have encountered a whole lot of challenges. If you can give us a bit of a insights for us and the audience at large, it would be nice. Sripriya.
Thanks, Dharma. Thanks for the introduction, and very good evening to all my co-panelists and also to the audience present here. So basically, when we started, our digital transformation journey had started long back, even before the pandemic. We had our legacy applications which we were migrating, and we were changing the underlying hardware. We were moving our dev and QA setups onto the cloud. So all these transformations were happening when COVID happened. So we were on the verge of taking these things live when COVID happened for us. Fortunately for us, we being a regulated entity, we have a very mature regulator along with us, who our BCP DR policies have been very stringent and controlled, and we practice this BCP DR on a quarterly basis. We have these DR drills which are being conducted on a quarterly basis, where all the end users get involved, as well as our teams get involved. So that way people were well equipped to work from home, and the shift to work from home was very easy for us. What was difficult was, as Pooja rightly mentioned, it was this micromanagement where these major migrations were happening and you have teams working from home, and we were not sure whether this entire migration would go smooth, because we cannot afford a downtime. We can't afford any production issues. And we have an RPO compliance also associated with us. So we can't afford any of these. We needed this migration to be seamless. And somewhere at the back of mind, having worked physically with people, somewhere at the back of the mind, it was like, how is this going to shape up, or how is this going to work? This was our core area of concern, actually. So, but thanks to our partners, thanks to our vendors, thanks to everybody who contributed and removed this myth out of everybody's mind that you can't work from home. So basically, these fortunately for us, we have seen the best productivity figures, and the number of incidents over the past 18 months have reduced drastically. The productivity figures have increased, the number of incidents people are available round the clock now. So that's how technology has shaped up, and people are willing to contribute, people are willing to, obviously work from home or this solution, we don't see it as a long-term thing. What we see is a hybrid model. So where we see that part of the time we work from home, or part of the time we be in office and maintain that physical connect. So that's our one area. We were not from a data security person. We have certain departments or certain applications which are hosted in-house and cannot be hosted on the cloud. So we did our cloud journey. We did our cloud journey for obviously the development and QA segments, but production still remains in-house. That was our core area of concern. So educating users in terms of the cyber security norms. You can obviously not, so the kind of attacks the industry has seen over the past 18 months, you can never be well prepared for a cyber attack. You can't be fully prepared anytime. So you need to continuously revisit your whiteboard or way. So any kind of on-premises solution, whatever best equipped you are, you need to kind of revisiting your space and kind of challenging yourself, and because the hacker is thinking ahead of you. So that's something is a major area and major risk which we foresee in the future, and we are working towards that, building that.
Thanks, Sripriya, for the wonderful insights. And you touched upon two areas, interestingly. One was the hybrid model of operations going forward, and the security. So let me turn my attention to Jagdish and understand what is his thoughts on the way forward, and how is he going to manage. What's your perspective, Jagdish, from an industry point of view, especially on banking? What do you think the way forward, as far as the hybrid model of operation is going to stay, or would be, partially depending on the segment of operations, you will selectively make it work from home or work from anywhere or from office. Your thoughts, Jagdish?
Right. So, from a banking and financial services perspective, I think the regulator is also clear, and most new banks, and in fact, almost all the existing banks, even and financial institutions, fintechs, are all completely digitized, uh, and it is going increasingly on the digital space. Even before the pandemic, the ask has always been, do I need to really go to a bank in the old sense? Okay, and that has been progressively reducing for more and more and more services. There are very, very, very few services that anyone really needs to go to a bank the traditional old sense anymore. And that obviously is going to be the trend going forward. It is going to be digital. It is going if banking has to expand and go to the unbanked, underbanked segments across the country and reach every single person and every single service, then digital is the way to go. I mean, obviously, it is not feasible for any bank, regardless of its size and scale, to physically reach out to all nook and corners of the country. That's not going to happen. So it is going to be digital for sure. The key challenge is, of course, making sure that the scalability, the reliability, and the security are always maintained, because it's again one of those segments where the 24/7 availability is an absolute necessity. I mean, I would imagine healthcare is, of course, one, and the other one is this, because in most of the other segments, I mean, even if we take other product, let's say if we do an e-commerce purchase or if we do anything else, yeah, I mean, if you might try to do something in the middle of the night, but if it really didn't work at that hour, for many of the other services, you might not even try. You would say, like, I'll just do it tomorrow morning. That's okay. No big deal. But if someone needs money in the middle of the night for an emergency, and you try to transfer money at that time, and that transfer doesn't go through at that time because of some problem on the system, no one's going to be very pleased about that, for sure. So that's the kind of exacting, demanding nature of these transactions. They have to happen. They have to happen 24/7. They have to happen instantaneously. The expectation is that if I do a UPI transfer, the other person gets it within 5 seconds. I mean, no one has the patience to wait for 25 seconds for UPI credit to happen. So that is the expectation, and that has to now be the new norm, with the same level of security that would be otherwise, or even much better level of security than has been there ever before. And of course, with things like the India stack and the RPI regulations, etc., these have all been made possible. Things like UPI, with the concept of one-click, two-factor kind of security, which is kind of unprecedented and unparalleled across the world in terms of how you can achieve two-factor with a single click. That level of security to ensure that you do your transactions anywhere, anyhow, and they remain as secure and as reliable and as quick as they would be, just about wherever you do it. So that's going to be the future, and that's where it's all going to grow. And it's all for the good in that sense. That's really how I see that it's going.
Thanks, Jagdish. I completely agree with you. The way we have shown digital transformation, especially on payments technology, India is way ahead of the rest of the world. The numbers speaks, the experience speaks. I completely agree. That's the journey we are going to embark, and I'm sure we all will be experiencing that journey and contributing to in our small ways. Yes, I would take Rohit's perspective, because the learning is an important aspect in any of these journeys so far, whatever we have discussed, because that it is not about access of information. Information is available. You can Google, you get the information, but the learning has to get aligned to a certain thinking, right? The information, how you can make use of the information, how you can build the K factor, the knowledge factor, which is a vital element for the success of the organization, success of the country, nation, so on and so forth. So I think Rohit can, give his perspective from the future way. how you think, Rohit, the learning curve is going to happen as well as the diversified approaches we adopt in our ecosystem.
So I'm going to break this down into two parts. I like to structure things so that it's easier for us. One is the learning as a learner, and one is operations learning, right? I think what we were discussing was in the past conversation was, hey, how did COVID change the way we operate, and how did it impact on a day-to-day basis? Clearly, like the way right now the conference that we are in, we are actually operating via Zoom. That wouldn't have happened if COVID wouldn't have come in. Let's be honest. Chances are this we would be actually running around, taking a cab or a Ola or Uber or driving down to a location and then meeting, greeting, and investing in an entire day or half a day for an hour conference conversation, isn't it? Now we can literally switch in, switch out, and actually get so many things done at the same time. So while COVID has taught us to multitask and also efficiently use our time, the boundaries between personal life and professional life have blurred. And that's what Sripriya was also kind of calling out, that they are available round the clock. Effectively, we started having tires around our waist and unhealthy timing of sleeping habits, effectively leading to a lot of other challenges. So end of the day, it is helping the hospitals and the healthcare industry a lot, because effectively we are workaholics, and we're enjoying the work that we are getting to enjoy with a feeling that we are in the family, but we are not. We're in the family. We think that family is enjoying us. No one is enjoying us. Neither the family is enjoying us, neither we are enjoying the family. And it's a mess, is what I believe. Yeah, that's my learning, that I would rather separate it out. And when I go back home, I don't have to open my laptop or my phone. I can just keep them away and spend my time with my daughter and my wife, and I can enjoy that. That's what I would want to do. Am I able to do it? No, not at all. I'm saying that's what I would want to do. And that's the operational challenges that I see at this point in time. And we all will nod our head and say that's what we would all want to do. But honestly, as soon as this conference ends, we'll go back into that mode and we will not be able to come out of it. That's reality of life. So is that a learning? Yes, that's a learning. And now there is a politically correct statement. There is no work-life balance, this work-life integrated. That's a politically correct statement, which I again would say that is probably happy and nice for our employers or for us to say it to our juniors. But end of the day, it's a work-life imbalance. Yeah, that's on the operational side of it. Now I'll get into the other aspect, which is the learning side of people that we help in. So as I've spent more time in this, what I've realized is that learning has 3 phases in it. The phase 1 is, am I aware what I need to do? And do I acknowledge that this is what I want to do? And am I acting on it? Awareness, acknowledgement, and acting. All of that is happening or not. Many a times people are not aware. And when they're not aware, it is important for us to get guidance from somewhere. After you get the guidance from somewhere, which means you're aware, you acknowledged, and now you want to act on it in terms of learning that specific area of learning. That is when content comes in. Content in terms of online content. Now with COVID and pandemic, there's so much of online content. Everyone wants to do online content. And effectively, Dharmaraj has rightly said that they want to convert this into knowledge. Does that happen or not? Secondary question. But I'm saying content is created with the hope that the knowledge will be imparted. Yeah. So guidance to knowledge imparting, that is done through content. After the knowledge is imparted, then there is a third phase or third stage where the learner will say, okay, I've learned so much, let me go and test myself out in the market, which is interviews, calls, test, whatever. Effectively, if the learner is able to get through, I have learned well. If I'm not able to get through, I have failed miserably, I go back again to the guidance and say, hey, I have failed, where did I go wrong? Again, the guide says, this is what you should be doing, or he has figured it out, or she has figured it out. And then again, you go through the content exposure. Either the content is online, offline, conversations or whatever, and then you get the knowledge imparted. Again, you go through this. This is the virtuous circle of learning that we get through. So I just want to ensure, Dharmaraj, if I was able to answer / give a perspective.
Yeah, I completely agree, because this is the right perspective you put across. This is very, very important for each one of us to understand where we head towards. That is very, very important. And thanks, Rohit. It was a very good insight. Thank you so much for sharing your views. I really appreciate. Sunil, from your perspective, the citizen always crib every time. Government has not done this, not done that. The experience you spoke about in your earlier conversation. What is your take on how you wanted to take this forward from a generic perspective, not specific to your government, but generically?
See, on a generic perspective, what we can do is, as I told you, we've come a long way. The last 1 year has been a huge transformation, especially the way citizen services are being delivered. And it's not only for our state, for all the states, for all over. Because of the change in behavior, there's been a change in the behavioral pattern, there's been a change in the mind shift. So the way citizen services are delivered, they have changed. They've changed drastically. So, and there is huge scope for improvisation in that. For example, we moved from a physical, I'll just take an example of a driving license. Driving license, which was you had to go and physically go and deposit a form, we moved onto an online mode. And today, Delhi is moving into a situation where you don't even have to do it online. The documents get collected and delivered to you at your doorstep. So gradually, even the citizen services, and we are I'm sort of working on a couple of pilots where we want to use the Zomato, we call it the Zomato model. We want to deliver citizen services in a Zomato model. That is where I look at the future of delivering citizen services. Having said that, we all agree that you will never have 100% satisfaction for citizens. They will always keep wanting more. But two aspects. One is improvisation of services. Second is also reaching the last mile. It's okay if I'm talking about giving this kind of services in a metro or in cities. But what about villages? What about remote corners? So we need to do a lot of focus on reaching the last mile, reaching the last villager. I mean, we are talking about mobile apps, but even today there are a lot of areas, a lot of places where villagers do not have smartphones. There's a huge population which uses earlier phones. They don't even have smartphones. So I think what we also need to focus at is a huge investment in terms of infrastructure, in terms of data centers. We also need to build up data centers. We need to invest in infrastructure. We need to invest in connectivity. So all these things go in hand, then only you can match citizens' expectations and improvise for citizen services.
So thank you so much. It was a great thoughts and really appreciate. So now moving to Viloo, from your perspective, so the journey has to be very different than what we experienced till 2019 December, right? To be precise, post that there were very many rumors, then eventually a reality, and the pandemic started. So how do you see the future journey as far as the the healthcare segment is concerned, and what is your view, especially from that particular engagement with the patients and the holistic approach?
There is not really too much of a difference today post pandemic. I'm calling it post pandemic, though it is not really over yet. Post pandemic, it is more like patients are returning back to coming in person, but at the same time are still open to talking to doctors and consulting them on the remote platform that we have made. We are also seeing that the people who are already used to the digital platforms in the hospital are trying to improve the processes more from a digital perspective, trying to make it more smarter, trying to make it more efficient. They are also trying to. We are also from a digital perspective, we are also trying to see how we can improve the patient experience by really improving the turnaround time to the patients, because that is the most the biggest pain point for the patient is speed of the service delivery today in healthcare. That is one. Second is the accuracy of what they are, how their billing is done, how their stay is taken care of. Of course, the demands from the patients have also increased a lot. There is a lot of, like, patients are well read. They know more about their own symptoms even before a doctor tells them anything, and they want to know. They're well read from Google, which is actually not really a good thing to happen, but because it is partially right, partially wrong. There are lots of ifs and buts in the information that is spread. There is also, but however, the patient is looking for a much more digital experience today, with the way the hospitals are functioning. They're looking forward to a lot more interaction on electronic medium. They definitely, as I said earlier, we are concentrating on how to give them the fastest delivery, most accurate delivery. That is our focus at the moment. And without making our own processes more efficient, we cannot really give them that. So that is another thing where we are focusing on. We need to see how we can make our own processes more efficient using digital.
Want of time, just let's quickly catch up with Pooja and Sripriya. Last words from both of you.
Dharmaraj,
Pooja,
so sorry. I have an external meeting, so I'm going to leave. But you guys continue. It is great talking to you guys. Really appreciate it. Thank you, guys. Bye.
Yes.
Yeah, so way forward for us would be surely minimizing the gaps in the processes which are already there, which we have been observing, and improvisation of our services, as Viloo also mentioned, that especially the patient experience. So that is one of the things that we have started working on, and that is a continuous journey which has to be taken care of. Again, also we are looking forward for integrating more on IT and OT systems, because in our labs and all, so we are thinking of working more on that security of IT, not only IT but OT systems as well, which is again a very important part for us. And as I mentioned earlier, also IT security has to be the basic hygiene for the organization, for all the right. Yeah. And the last one would be that agile mindset, which is a cultural change which we'll have to bring throughout the organization.
All right. It's wonderful discussions. Actually, it's taking too much of time as far as the time limit is concerned. We are running short. Sripriya, what's your last word? Very quickly, then we will open up for questions. Otherwise, we will conclude.
As Rohit rightly mentioned, the 9 to 5 norm no longer works. So we can't stick to a 9 to 5 norm. It was never there for technology, but then it has further blood. So there is some kind of balance between personal and professional life, which will strike in, and I think there will be some kind of policies built around that. I see the industry going that way. But work from home is here to stay, and the hybrid model will continue. And we are definitely looking at capitalizing AI features for production predictability, building predictability around production systems, and also leveraging cloud capabilities for microservices. That's our goal.
So wonderful. All right. That's really, really great. And with this, we will conclude this session. Before that, we will just open up any questions from anybody from the audience side. Happy to answer. Any questions for the panelists, please let us know. Otherwise, we can conclude the session. We'll wait for a minute.
Dharmaraj, there are no questions as the discussion is already covered. So,
right.
Yeah.
Okay. Thank you so much. And with this, we will conclude this session. Thanks, everyone. Really appreciate it. I thoroughly enjoyed this session. Thank you all. Have a great evening.